Train Sim World 2 is the second free game on Epic Store this week. Developed by Dovetail Games, it seems to try and strike a balance with simulation and something that is easy for anyone to get into. The game does not really have a story, as you can imagine, but feel free to roleplay it yourself as a real train driver. Gameplay wise, full disclosure, I have never played a train simulator before of any kind. The closest I have probably got is that when I was a kid I had a few Hornby model trains for a while, but never really got into it. The base game, you have access to 3 sets of lines: the Bakerloo line on London Underground, the Snelsvaartrekker from Cologne to Aachen, and the Sandpatch Grade Freight line. Trains wise, in the Bakerloo line you get the 1972 Mark II, the German line has the ICE 3 train, and the DB-BR 442 Talent 2, and on the haulier side you have the AC 4400CW, the GP38-2, and the SD40-2. Honestly, I know nothing about most of those trains. However, I have recently been a passenger on the Cologne-Aachen line on one of the ICE trains, so that's what I decided to play, as you can see from the footage rolling in the background. Each time you start a new line, you get tutorials on the trains that you will drive on that line, and then an initial mission to drive it yourself. One of the things I found missing was advice on braking time. You pretty much have to work this out yourself. And granted, I didn't mind this too much as it was just a bit of an extra challenge. I'm sure that won't be for everyone, and some people would like a little bit more in-depth tutorial. One other thing I would have to say about the tutorials is there are a lot of buttons to interact with in the cabin. However, the tutorial never mentions some of them. Some are pretty self-explanatory, like the horn, but others aren't. So it was kind of annoying that they didn't go over every button that you can play with. Yes, it would make the tutorial longer, but it would be worth mentioning what they all do. I also encountered a few bugs with the controls, such as it thinking I was braking when I was actually wanting to start the engine and go forward. Driving the train is reasonably fun. The heads-up display makes it clear when you have to slow down and stop, etc. Minor complaint was that sometimes the speed on the tracks jumped around very suddenly, and I found it especially odd when I was stopped in the station and the speed was 140, but then when you left the station a few hundred meters away it was suddenly 60, so I ended up going over a couple of times. I mean, there's not a lot more to say. For the haulage trains you have to get out of your seat and uncouple the cars by hand from time to time. There are various bonuses you get when you get out and explore the station, such as putting down first aid boxes or warning signs, etc. You drive trains, you try to reach your stations on time, getting bonus points for sticking under speed limits, etc. And once you're driving at speed, there's not a lot to do, you just kind of have to wait till it's time to slow down. And I suspect some people will find this all very relaxing. I will note there are a lot of DLCs for the game, and not all of them seem to be available on Epic currently. These DLCs are quite expensive. I was excited to see they had a Tees Valley line, which is basically the area I'm originally from in the UK. However, I didn't fancy dropping the cash to buy that on Steam. However, the DLCs might be worth it for you if you're into these type of games. Graphically, the game is quite nice, the trains themselves are very well modelled, and oddly even the passengers don't look too bad, which I was surprised by. The world around the tracks is reasonable. Obviously it's not truly realistic, but you aren't paying that much attention to it as you drive the train. Sound-wise, you mostly hear your own train engine, and I found the sound quite lacking, to be honest. For example, if another train speeds past you in the opposite direction, you don't hear it. And if you've ever been on a train, you know it's quite a noticeable sound when a train whooshes past you, so I couldn't really rate the sound too highly. In summary, this is kind of a short review, because in fairness to the game, I have nothing really to compare it to that I've played myself. But it is a very accessible game and seems to do the whole train sim thing well. So if you've never played such a game before, it should be really easy to get into, and just as equally, if you've played this type of game before, you probably will be able to slip straight into it. However, there are certainly a few bugs, and the fact that tutorials leave some things out is a little bit frustrating, and the sound leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, adding in a passing train sound can't be that difficult, unless it's an extra setting I missed and it's already there, but nothing sprung out at me. For once I won't score the game because I really need something to compare it to. What I will say is, if you like sim games, give it a go. If you fancy trying one, give it a go. Though honestly, it's not a game for me personally. I just found it a bit too boring at times, especially when I was just sat letting the train go at full speed and not really doing anything. So has anyone else played this game? What do you think of it? Are you a fan of these types of sim games? If so, how do you think it compares to other train simulators? I would be really interested to know. Thanks very much for watching. Please hit that like button and subscribe, and stay tuned for more epic reviews next week. Have a great weekend.